To disassemble and assemble your Samsung Galaxy Note 2, you will need a small Phillips screwdriver and a plastic separation tool of some kind. You can use one that comes with a new screen, a plastic knife, or your thumbnail. Make sure the device is switched off by holding the power button down and then power off. Now we can remove the rear battery cover. This battery cover contains the near field communications antenna, and the contacts are here. Now we can remove the battery, and underneath the battery there's a moisture indicator just here. Take out your SIM card and your micro SD card. Now we need to undo 11 Phillips screws around the outside edge. You can skip this stage or any other by clicking the link at the top of the video. And don't worry about getting these 11 screws mixed up, as these are all the same size. Now we need to separate the rear housing from the frame. So if you push from behind along here, just push that out, you can open up a small gap at the side, and you can get your thumbnail or your plastic separation tool in there, and then you can just slide it along, and that will separate the small clips. You'll feel them unclipping as you go along. If you don't have a plastic separation tool, you can use your thumbnail instead. Just make sure you use a plastic tool of some kind so you don't mark or damage the frame. So keep running your plastic tool or a guitar pick around the outside edge. And don't rush, just take your time. And as you come round to the bottom, there's another 2 each side of the home key. And then in the back there's another 2 clips. Just gently separate that one. And then at the top here there's another one. Using a small screwdriver, just gently lift that, and that will let the back come off nice and easy. The rear cover contains 3 antennas. This one's for your GPS, and this is your Wi-Fi antenna, which can be seen from the back. And this large one over here is your 4G antenna. To remove your 3G GSM antenna and loudspeaker assembly, we need to undo this single silver screw at the bottom. This is slightly smaller than the case screws, so it's hard to get it mixed up with the others. This speaker assembly also contains a moisture indicator. It changes colour if it gets wet. Got your loudspeaker, and there's a small rubber microphone gasket that you may have to transfer over to your new part if you're replacing the loudspeaker. Just lift that out and then transfer that over to your new loudspeaker. Make sure when you put it back in that it goes all the way in and it sits nice and flat. If you're having trouble with your microphone or your micro USB socket, you can replace this board at the bottom. So we need to disconnect the antenna flex, just gently ease that up, try not to put too much strain on it, and that will pop open. Now we can lift the ribbon connector up using your fingernail or a plastic tool. Just gently lift it up, and there's a little bit of double-sided tape holding this on, so just gently insert a thin blade and that will lift away. So this contains connections for your loudspeaker and your antenna, and these should be easy to find online. If you need to replace your SIM tray or your micro SD tray, then start by unplugging the ribbon connector at the top, and then using a thin blade gently lift and separate the SIM tray from the main board. You can use a little bit of heat from a hairdryer to soften the adhesive, make this a little bit easier. If you're replacing it, it doesn't matter too much if you damage it during the removal. But if you're planning on reusing it again, then try not to bend the board too much as it may damage it. To reassemble from this stage, you can click the link at the top of the video. If you need to replace your power button, then start by disconnecting the ribbon connector. Just lift that up and gently lift the power switch away from the frame, and try to keep the adhesive on the switch if you can, as if you're switching it over to a new frame. If you need to remove the proximity sensor or the forward facing camera, then start by releasing this ribbon connector and then undo this single Phillips screw. And don't worry about getting this screw mixed up, as it's the same as the two other silver screws that are used. And gently lift it up, and this is your proximity sensor and your ambient light sensor. To remove or replace your ear speaker or headphone socket, start by undoing this single silver screw. This is the same size as the other two smaller silver screws. And now we need to undo this single black screw which holds the main board in place. There's only one of these, so you can't get it mixed up with the others. Now we need to remove the ribbon connectors. This one's for your home and touch keys at the bottom of the screen. This is the GSM 3G antenna. Just disconnect that. This is the main display screen connector here. You could plug your new screen into this to make sure it's working alright before you disassemble the phone. This connector's for your ear speaker and your headphone jack. And finally, this is the S Pen ribbon connector. If you don't have this on your new screen, then your S Pen won't work. Now we can lift the main board away from the chassis, and at the top here, this is the connection for your GPS antenna, Wi-Fi antenna, your main camera, secondary microphone, camera flash. And if you need to replace the camera, just gently lift the ribbon connector up and take your replacement camera and plug it back in again. This is the little S Pen switch that detects when you remove and put the S Pen into the phone. External 3G test port, your 4G antenna connections here, and this is for supporting a wireless charging battery cover. The volume up and the volume down keys are replaceable using a hot air soldering iron. And if you need to replace your headphone jack or your earpiece, then gently lift up your headphone jack and lift the earpiece out of the case. Just double-sided tape holding it on. It also contains your power LED. You might need to transfer this small rubber gasket for the secondary microphone over to your replacement screen if it doesn't come with that. It can't go in the wrong way because it's got a little tag on one side. This is the heatsink compound for your quad-core CPU. Make sure that's on your replacement screen as well. You might need to transfer the vibrating module over to your new screen, so gently lift up the circuit board, double-sided tape holding it in, and then using a small pointed instrument or a screwdriver, gently lever the vibrating module out from the casing. Now you might need to transfer this little rubber cap for your S Pen. Just pull that out, a little bit of double-sided tape holding that in, and transfer that over to your new casing. There's a small plastic clip here that gives it the little clip in and clip out. Again, just transfer that over to your new housing if it doesn't come with this little plastic clip. Make sure that's pushed down nicely. Now remove the 3G GSM antenna flex from the casing and put that aside. If you need to replace the home key ribbon flex, or the screen needs replacing, then we need to get it nice and hot to separate the glass from the metal chassis. You can click the link at the top of the video to see how to do this. So to reassemble, place your vibrating module into its hole and gently push that circuit down onto that little pin there. Make sure that's pushed fully home. To replace the 3G GSM antenna cable, start by plugging it into the micro USB and microphone board. Line that up and snap that down into place. Bring the cable round to line up with the white lines on the ribbon, and then offer this into the bottom and just give a gentle push where the double-sided tape is to make sure it's stuck down nicely. Now gently ease the antenna flex into the housing, being careful not to damage the cable. Make sure it hooks underneath those little pins and bring it all the way up to the top. Make sure you hook it around this little pin at the top here and ensure it's pushed all the way down so that it doesn't get trapped under the main board. Now we can replace the headphone jack and ear speaker. Place the ear speaker in and give it a gentle push down, and we can replace that single silver screw. Just finger tight, don't do it up too tight. Now we can replace the main board. So make sure all the ribbon cables are open and that nothing's being trapped underneath. Make sure the antenna cable isn't trapped and that everything looks like it's sitting down nicely. And once you're happy that's sitting down, we can replace that single black screw. Just finger tight. Now we can reconnect all the cables. So line that up and snap that down into place. This is your home key, touch key ribbon cable, and for this antenna cable, offer that into place and push that down. Now we can reconnect the main screen connector and the headphone ear speaker connector, and finally the S Pen connector. Now replace the proximity sensor and forward facing camera. So offer them into place and reconnect the ribbon cable. If you have trouble, just keep moving the cable about until eventually it plugs in. So make sure that bracket goes in at the bottom. Then using one of those smaller silver screws, just do that up finger tight. Now we can replace the power switch. So take the ribbon cable and line that switch up so it sits nicely in the case, and give it a gentle push down. Reconnect the flex cable and then make sure that's sitting down nicely. So final check to make sure that all the cables are connected. Now we can replace the SIM and SD tray. If you have a new one, you'll have to remove the protective coating to expose the double-sided tape. Start by plugging the ribbon connector in, and then make sure these white parts line up with the raised pins on the main board. Just make sure these all line up nicely, and once you're happy they're lined up, just gently push the SIM tray down into place. Now we can replace the 3G GSM antenna and speaker assembly. Let's place that down and take the last single short screw and don't do this up too tight, just finger tight is plenty. So final check to make sure that everything is in place, and once you're satisfied we can replace the rear cover. So start at the headphone jack. Now sometimes this headphone jack, the rubber gasket comes off and it looks a bit like this. Make sure it's pushed all the way back on and it's sitting down nice and flat, and bring the casing down onto the headphone jack, and as you squeeze it you'll see the gap close off and it'll snap into place. So keep coming all the way around the edge, squeezing until the gap disappears around the edge. Once you're happy that that's all clipped down, we can now replace those 11 Phillips screws. So don't do them up too tight, finger tight is plenty. Now we can replace the micro SD and the SIM card. Put your battery back in and replace the rear cover. And we should have a fully working Galaxy Note 2. Thanks for watching. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll do my best to make some more.